Everybody, this is Dr. Forth, and today I'm talking about growth hormone and anti-aging, specifically the impact of nutrition on anti-aging. So we're continuing our anti-aging episodes today. We talked about growth hormone and how it comes from the pituitary gland and the impact of exercise on growth hormone secretion. You also have an impact from nutrition. Now, we talked about how after exercise, you don't want to consume any carbs for an hour in order to get that spike of growth hormone secretion. In general, making sure that you don't have a high level of carbohydrate in the diet is a good way to pursue anti-aging benefits, particularly refined carbohydrates. This is not just because of the insulin connection, although that definitely plays a role, but because excess carbs and refined carbohydrates, particularly, can stimulate inflammation. And inflammation has a big effect on the aging process. Usually, when we think about inflammation, we think, oh, some kind of injury. And that can be true, but you can also have inflammation in the body, and it can cause problems with increased cardiovascular risk and autoimmune diseases and things like that. So we should probably do a whole episode about inflammation. I'm going to try and remember that. Intermittent fasting, you may have heard this. This means that you are fasting over different periods of time, and there are videos specifically about that. The idea is that intermittent fasting is going to deplete your glucose and allow your insulin levels to come down. So most studies recommend at least an overnight fast of 12 to 14 hours. Now, keeping in mind, this is just for informational purposes. This is not specific medical advice. Obviously, I don't know what your personal health conditions might be. So if you have healthcare situations that you have questions about, you definitely want to seek the advice of your medical provider that knows your case. So we're providing general information here. So again, the intermittent fasting, that's where you have different lengths of a fast, and it allows your insulin levels to come back down. It's very helpful for individuals who are experiencing insulin resistance. Okay, so dropping that insulin level down, that's also going to help to reset your hunger signals and so forth. There's a complex relationship between insulin, the hunger hormone ghrelin, and growth hormone. It's actually explored in a 2021 article from the journal Cells. I'm going to go ahead and link that in the description. So insulin, hunger management, all of this plays a role in growth hormone secretion and also anti-aging. We're going to look at some of the different important macronutrients. Fiber is the first one. Fiber technically comes under the umbrella of carbohydrates. If you look at the label on food items in the supermarket, they list carbohydrates, but then they separate out under carbohydrates, sugars and fiber. So fiber is part of the carbohydrate. Generally, we don't consider it to be really part of the calorie count because the fiber is material that our digestive system is not able to break apart and use for energy. The calories listed on the nutritional label represent how much energy is released from the food after it gets digested. So we don't think of the fiber as part of energy, but it's very important for helping to maintain motility in the GI tract and helping to regulate hormones, because most hormones actually get processed and metabolized through the gut, and it also helps to regulate uptake of glucose. See, when we have fiber in the gut, the sugar doesn't immediately just all get absorbed into the bloodstream and cause blood sugar spikes. So fiber is important for that. We looked at amino acids and their impact on growth hormone secretion. There's a significant increase in growth hormone secretion with oral intake of arginine and lysine. This varied with activity level and patient fitness status. And according to the studies that I looked at, the amino acid intake raises the levels more in females than in males, and they postulate that maybe that has something to do with estrogen effects. And so I wonder, if they looked at it in postmenopausal females, would you see females having a similar response to males? These amino acids are actually the building blocks for protein. So protein is made with a bunch of amino acids attached together, and then it coils or folds into a particular three-dimensional structure. So when you hear amino acid, you know those are like parts of proteins. Vitamin D levels are important for maintaining appropriate healthy levels of growth hormone. I mentioned vitamin D in my video about immune function because it does play an important role in regulating the immune system, but it also affects things like growth hormone levels and bone density and usage of proper minerals. In fact, that's probably the function that you're most familiar with. You go to the grocery store and you see on the milk that it's got vitamin D added to it because we know vitamin D helps with absorption of minerals, but it does a whole lot of things. And your serum level, meaning the level in your blood, should be for normal, healthy, active individuals 50 to 65 nanograms per milliliter. And so many folks are walking around with low levels of that and they don't even realize it, particularly during the darker time of the year, which for the Northern Hemisphere, that's going to be our fall and winter months. So thinking like September through January or so, depending on where you live. So vitamin D is important. Individuals with deficiency of growth hormone, and interestingly, those who have acromegaly, seem to also have low levels of vitamin D. What's interesting about the acromegaly is because acromegaly is a condition of excess growth hormone, specifically in adults. So acromegaly and growth hormone deficiency tend to have low vitamin D levels. Overall caloric restriction does not seem to have an impact on growth hormone unless we're talking specifically about protein restriction. Really, the restriction I mentioned in previous episodes is related to avoiding carbohydrate intake right after you do your high intensity exercise. Growth hormone secretion, while it's important, it's just one aspect of anti-aging. That's the one that we've been talking the most about in the past couple of videos, but let's look at some other factors, okay? Insulin resistance is an important consideration. Insulin resistance means that your body's producing insulin, but it's not doing its job as efficiently. So you could have elevated insulin levels in the blood and still have high blood sugar levels. So that's where the intermittent fasting and exercise can help to bring that back in line. Good balanced diet with appropriate levels of fiber. We talked about how important fiber is for the gut to work, and the gut processes hormones. So making sure that the hormones are in balance, making sure that we don't get big spikes of blood sugar and appropriate vitamin D levels. Another thing to think about when we're looking at aging is something called advanced glycation end products. Often you see it abbreviated with an acronym AGE, AGES, Advanced Glycation End Products. These substances actually cross-link proteins, so they connect different proteins like collagen and elastin. This can lead to the degeneration of structural proteins, promoting premature aging, wrinkles, loss of skin elasticity, and then in the cardiovascular system, you can have stiffening of the blood vessels, impaired processing of nitric oxide. Nitric oxide is the compound that helps to dilate the blood vessels. So we don't want that to be impaired. AGES, AGES, can also promote atherosclerosis. That's the deposit of fatty plaques in the walls of the vessels. It contributes to insulin resistance. We just talked about what that is, and systemic inflammation. So we really want to minimize the development of these. And it's also the thing that can cause dark spots or age spots. We can lower the production of these by changing our cooking methods. Instead of frying and grilling, we do boiling, poaching, or stewing, or steaming. Does anyone have an Instapot or pressure cooker? I love mine. It makes things so much faster. It's fabulous. Limiting sugar and processed foods. So those sugar and processed foods are going to contribute to the production of those advanced glycation end products. We want to decrease or eliminate our consumption of sodas, processed meats. Those are all going to help us to produce more of those undesirable advanced glycation end products. Antioxidants are really important. These are from your deeply pigmented vegetables. Perhaps you've heard the term eat the rainbow. If you make a big salad, which I love salad, did you know that Costco has giant tubs of salad, organic, huge, and very inexpensive? I love them. So I start all of my meals with a big salad. You can add all kinds of different vegetables to carrots, peppers, and the more colors you have, the better. Did you know carrots come in all different colors, not just the orange ones? They have purple and red and yellow. I've seen them in the store. I thought they looked so pretty. Imagine how colorful and awesome your salad could be with all those different veggies. So the bright colored pigments tell us that there's definitely going to be antioxidants there, because the antioxidants protect those brightly colored pigments. So whenever in nature we see the bright colors, we also have antioxidants. What are antioxidants? Antioxidants are capable of protecting either the vegetables or our body tissues from damage from free radicals. Well, what's a free radical? Free radical is a highly unstable reactive oxygen that's missing one of the electrons. And because it's missing the electron, it's unstable and eager to react with all kinds of other things. Well, if it reacts with tissues, it can cause damage, oxidative damage, they call it. So the antioxidants, these are supplements or things naturally occurring in the fruits and veggies. The antioxidants can come in and react with that highly unstable reactive oxygen species and neutralize it so it prevents damage to the body tissues. Or in the case of the vegetables, if the vegetables are growing, the antioxidants are going to prevent damage to the nice pigment from the reactive oxygen species. So that's an antioxidant. Vitamin C, water soluble, very important for immune function, but also for collagen production. Anytime you have an injury, you need to have vitamin C because vitamin C is going to help with collagen production. See, when your cells make collagen, it's the fibroblasts that actually do that. They make the collagen forms together in bundles, and these are weak initially. And vitamin C actually helps to strengthen those fibers so they become fully functional, strong collagen fibers. Clinical deficiency of vitamin C is called scurvy. And you have all kinds of lesions, skin, teeth, and even on x-ray you can see skeletal changes associated with that. But anytime that you have any kind of injury, or if you want to prevent signs of aging and thus increase your repair capabilities, vitamin C is really important. Pretty much all raw fruits and veggies have a good amount of vitamin C. Healthy omega fatty acids. Now we have multiple different types, but the two ones we talk about are omega-6 and omega-3s. And perhaps you've heard of people supplementing with fish oil. And what's up with that? Well, the fish oil is a good source of omega-3 fatty acids. Ideally, we should have a 1-to-1 ratio of omega-6 to omega-3s. And omega-6 we find in lots of grain products. So our diet, at least here in America, is very heavily focused on omega-6. So if we have all of this omega-6 and not as much omega-3, that can drive inflammation. We want to move as close as possible to a 1-to-1 ratio. Yes, you can do lab work and you can determine what your ratio is, but if you don't want to do the lab work, a good rule of thumb is think about reducing as much as possible all of those processed foods and grains in particular, and increase your consumption of the omega-3 fat. So fish, fatty fish are an excellent source, but not if they're farmed. Farmed fish are fed things that are not normally in the fish diet. And as a result, the fatty acids that they produce are not the nice omega-3 fatty acids. So you want the omega-3 from wild caught fish. And so all the fish oil supplements that people are taking, that's to raise the omega-3 so it more closely approximates the super high levels of the omega-6 that we automatically have in our diet. Coenzyme Q10 or CoQ10. The active form is ubiquinol. This substance is important for cellular energy production, particularly for the heart. My dog was diagnosed with a heart condition. He has a murmur, which means one of his heart valves is not working correctly. So he has a cardiologist and he has special medication to help with that. But I got him formulated for dogs canine ubiquinol supplement. It's really cool. It just has a little pump dispenser. So based on his weight, I can just add it on top of his food. And when he had his follow-up with his cardiologist this past March, she actually said his heart went back to normal. Now, the valve is still defective, but the chamber that had started enlarging has gone back down, and she was really impressed with that. And she said it was probably because of the supplementation. So CoQ10, and this is something that's naturally produced in our body, but you can supplement it if it's not a contraindication for any of your medications or health conditions. So before you do that, you might want to check with your doctor. CoQ10 is important for cellular energy production. So these were a couple of suggestions and ideas for nutritional things that can help with anti-aging and increasing growth hormone production. So stay tuned. We're going to continue with our anti-aging series. And we have a couple more episodes, one specifically about changes associated with perimenopause and menopause, and also other things like increasing telomere lengthening and so on and so forth to decrease the signs of aging. So stay tuned and definitely put down in the comments if you have any questions or other episodes that you'd like to see. Make sure you like and subscribe, and I'll see you in the next episode.